Hi, this is Angel Ribo with Mindalia Television, and we are here at the Conscious Live Expo. We're here today with Steven Halpern. Thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure.
We're going to start right away. So, what makes music so special, especially the one that you compose?
Well, in general, it seems that we as human beings are genetically pre-programmed to respond to music. In fact, many primates or mammals have places in the brain that respond to sound and music. What takes my music into another dimension, though, is not just that we respond to the rhythm or the frequency, but how the music affects our energetics, our aura, our being, and our brain waves. And what I started tapping into in the early part of my career was a way to orchestrate our brain waves, our heartbeat, our whole electromagnetic field by composing music that would assist the natural healing energies of the body. So in other words, my music supports the way the body would like to be stimulated. So in a sense, my music tunes the human instrument. Okay. And it does that by assisting the body to come into a state of balance. And one of the key ways to do that is through relaxation. Most music is not designed to relax people, which is great. You know, going back through the centuries, music was used for warfare, for symphonies, for great psychological and emotional aspects, which is all wonderful. But that is not where a lot of the healing happens, the natural healing happens.
And what makes that music special? So what makes that music that tunes with the human being?
Well, several things. As I say, number one, my music allows people to come into a state of balance. And I use only particular sounds, particular kinds of keyboards. The main one I use is called a Rhodes electric piano, which is like a series of tuning forks. Now you see we have quartz crystal tuning bowls, we have ancient Tibetan singing bowls, which are metal, but as a musician, that gets a little boring because it's basically only one note. 45 years ago or so, Harold Rhodes invented a keyboard that was essentially a series of tuning forks. Now, what I do with it, though, is different. And what I do, let me give you an example. So with traditional music, most people know how the music and where the music is going to go. We are culturally conditioned to anticipate the progression of notes and chords. So as I sing this little scale, feel what you feel in your heart. Notice what happens to your breathing. Notice what happens to your thinking. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Right, but most people will be holding their breath right there. You know that last note is supposed to come. What that means, and I gave a name to that called scalus interruptus. What that means is that we are projecting the trajectory of the music, the direction of the music, the flow of the music into the future. Well, relaxation and healing only happens in the present. Now we have a word for this called being mindful, mindfulness. If you're in the future, you're not in the present. Eckhart Tolle became very famous talking about the power of now. Well, that's what I have always been talking about in my music and orchestrating. So whether you are aware of it or not, when your body doesn't have to anticipate, when your brain doesn't have to anticipate where the music is going, it takes a deep breath. And that literally the deep breath reflex is one that's been part of spiritual psychotechnologies for thousands of years and now many medical healing technologies.
And Steven, what are the characteristics, the main characteristics of your music?
Beautiful tone, non-predictive melody. In fact, I downplay the role of melody. There are no words, and the tonal aspect, the sounds are very soothing. There are no sharp edges. There are no dissonant shrill sounds. There are no harsh percussive beats. There's a flow. There's a flow that just opens the body and opens the brain to be, we're getting a little soundtrack extra, to be in the now. And because of that, that really opens up a whole other way of responding. And that's built into all my recordings. In fact, early on, when I brought my first albums to record labels, they said, "Where's the beat? Where are the words? You don't have enough stress. You don't have enough sharp edges in your music." And I said, that's exactly the point. I don't want the sharp edges. I used to play that kind of music. And now I want to go into the healing zone. So that's a main aspect.
And how does that music help us to reach a different consciousness level?
Good. So with ordinary music, we are, as we're speaking right now, our brains are vibrating in what we call one of the four states of brain wave activity known as beta. There's alpha and beta and theta and delta. Beta is normal waking consciousness. Alpha is slower. That's where a lot of the early research on meditation was. Theta takes us even deeper into meditation, and that's the state associated with deeper healing. So when I first started doing research, what we found is that right away people would shift from their normal consciousness into alpha and theta. And when we played classical music, pop music, jazz music, etc., they were staying in beta. So right away there was a brainwave shift. I was the first person to do research monitoring and measuring brainwaves in music. No one had thought about that before because the technology wasn't really available. And when you listen to my music, within seconds, your brainwaves shift. But it's not just that they slow down, they become more balanced. We call this high coherence. Both halves of the brain become balanced. And when you're balanced, you access more of your consciousness. Your body shifts into a state where it's like your cells and your DNA say, this is how I want to be stimulated. This feels like home. This is natural. And naturally, the DNA starts to express higher levels of wellness, and that's why people like Deepak Chopra now are writing books called Optimal Wellness, where we can get the genes and the DNA to express, and this is something that we found out my music does naturally, because you don't have to tell them. They are pre-programmed, genetically designed to shift into that frequency if you give them a chance. And most music doesn't give them that chance. Mine does, and that's what I do.
Okay. And how is it the same kind of music that you were doing like 20, 30 years ago, or the one that you're doing today? Well,
actually, I've been doing this kind of music now professionally for just about 45 years. My first album came out in 1975. But before that, I was a hotshot trumpet player, playing jazz rock fusion. I was a rock and jazz rock guitar player. And I thought that's what my life was going to be for. I got really good at that and learned how to do some of the games on stage. But when this new music started coming to me in meditation, it was like my soul was telling me, this is what your mission is. This is your karmic job. This is what you're here for. Anybody could be a guitar player. There's lots of better guitar players now. But when I started doing what I was doing, it was instantly something that people said, we've been looking for something like this for years. And I was the first person to take my recordings into New Age stores, into metaphysical stores, into yoga centers, and that began to create a whole new field. But it was a major change to let go of what I was so good at, to start playing keyboards that I had never officially studied. But when I get into state, it's like my fingers know where to go. When I sit at the piano, sometimes it's almost like I levitate. I never know where the next notes are going to come, but I'm in the silence, I'm in the moment, I'm in that state of mindfulness, and in that state, the music unfolds. And after I play one phrase, I could hear the next phrase. And because I work with a lot of silence, that's in a sense, Deepak Chopra again and Wayne Dyer popularized the concept of getting in the gap between thoughts. Well, I always talked about that for 40 years, not using those words, I say getting into space between the notes. That's what I listen to. And when I'm listening, my hearing gets super sensitive, and I start hearing echoes, and I start hearing music. And then all I have to do is play it.
And Stephen, in 45 years, how has the science changed so that you have been able maybe to compose a different music? Is there a difference between the music you composed 45 years ago and what you're composing today?
Well, certainly the recording science is better, because now we can edit, and we have access to different levels of reverberation, some of which have consciousness effects. When I was in Spain, I was at the Montserrat, the cathedral's great echo in that church. So I wanted to record in that church, and if I had gone back there, we would have done that. Some of the ancient structures had magical echo and reverb. Well, now we can bring that into the studio, and now we can overdub and do many, many different things. There's still been very, very little science and research because there's very little money for this. When I first went public, I said, if you have a headache, that's very often because you are stressed. My music is for relaxation. It will reduce your stress. Guess what? The people who make aspirin were saying, he's competition for us. We don't want to, let him on our TV station. We don't want newspapers to write articles about music that can take people away from buying pills. So there's never been a lot of money to do research. I funded my own first research, but there's need for a lot more, and given the way things are, the most important thing is for people to do their own research. Play the music, whether it's mine or other people's. Pay attention to how you feel when you're hearing. One of the simplest responses is when people hear my music, they will often go, ah. It's like a weight is lifted from them. That's the stress being lifted from you. Your breathing deepens, your breathing becomes slower. These are the indications of the healing factors and the healing quotient coming in. You can't necessarily at the beginning know that you're shifting from alpha, deep alpha, into the theta frequencies. With practice, meditators can, yogis can, I can. And my latest albums like Deep Theta and Deep Alpha, take people into those states within seconds. And you asked about science. We now can dial in brain waves in the studio with sound, so that as soon as you put or listen, whether it's streaming or on a CD, because of the brain waves being encoded into the recording, you get there instantaneously. And the advantage for me is when I'm in the studio, I instantly can get into the state of a deep meditation. I don't have to wait 20 minutes to get into a deep meditation state. I could be in there in 20 seconds.
What would be like the tips that you would give Mindalia television viewers if they really want to buy the right music when they want to meditate, or when they want to go and relax themselves, or even heal themselves? So
Can I show them a picture?
Excuse me?
Can I show them a CD?
Well,
you do? Sure, because I could just demonstrate very simply. This is the album that's gone around the world, Chakra Suite. This will balance the chakras, which also helps put you into a meditative state. Energetically, very important to balance the chakras. It's an ancient psychotechnology. I was the first person to put a soundtrack to it. And the other big album, Deep Theta or Deep Alpha, will put you into a meditative state within seconds. Every song on here includes brainwave entrainment technology, little tones that you barely hear, but your brain hears it and shifts gears very, very quickly. So anything from Chakra Suite or Deep Alpha or Deep Theta or my album called Sound Healing will instantly get you into that state. In fact, most of my albums, but those would be the easiest ones that just about everybody has success with.
Awesome. Thank you. So thank you very much, Steven. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Again, this is Angel Ribo with Mindalia Television from the Conscious Life Expo. Thank you very much.